yes, it's not pleasurable to be stressed, but overwhelmed. And as the word, if we go to the root of the word, the etymology, the origin of the word, overwhelm being completely submerged, swamped. So it's like we are turned upside down, knock over. It's a much more overwhelmed image than stress, for more horrible and stressful that stress is. But if we use them as the same, then we don't have a container for when things get really overwhelming, really upside down, and we feel underwater.
Expanding possibilities, the mindset zone.
I'm your host, Ana Milikian, and before we start, please remember to visit mindset.zone. Yes, instead of .com, it's .zone to access all the episodes and other amazing resources, all at mindset.zone. And if you want to get the free chapter of my book, Mindset Zone, please go to mindset.zone/book. This episode is a solo episode that is being sponsored by Magic Mind. Magic Mind is this matcha-based energy drink designed to crush procrastination, brain fog, and fatigue. I try it as a way of drinking less coffee, and I love it. I always have it on my refrigerator, and I drink usually in the morning. It's about 2 ounces and helps me get in the right mindset to be more productive and focused. I totally recommend you go and check them out at magicmind.co/mindset zone. And you will get an initial discount if you use the code MINDZONE20. All caps, MINDZONE20. I will put all this in the show notes, and go ahead, just try it and tell me how it works for you. And speaking about coffee, I said that I use Magic Mind to drink less coffee, but I still drink my coffee in the morning because I love coffee. And if you are like me, drinking your favorite coffee in your favorite mug is a totally different experience of drinking the same coffee, let's say in a styrofoam cup or in a plastic not good cup. It's a totally different experience. It's the same drink, and replace coffee with your favorite drink. The container that you use to drink really changes the flavor and the experience of it. And I want you to think about this because this is a point that we can use, or an image metaphor that we can use for our emotions. And I love the work of Brené Brown, and with her book, she has transformed many lives. And in her book, The Atlas of the Heart, she really speaks about how naming emotions is so important. And the way she makes the point that words are like this container for our emotions. They shape our emotions. The right or the wrong word or container gives a different feeling for our emotion, a different experience. And in her research on emotions, she was surprised that in general, people have a limited number of words to describe the emotions that we feel. And that is something that limits us. That is one of the reasons that she came out with the book, The Atlas of the Heart, Mapping Meaningful Connection and the Language of Human Experience, where she speaks about a lot of these differentiations between emotions and words that we can use. And a special one for me is the differentiation that she does between stressed and overwhelmed. And I think understanding this differentiation can make all the difference in our lives. In the Mindset.zone podcast here, I speak about stress quite a lot. And I have several episodes where I reframe with the guest what stress means in many different ways. And I will make sure that I put the links to the other episodes here in the show notes. And even in a recent episode, I was speaking about the difference between stress and stressor. So the stressor is what triggers the stimuli that activates the stress response in our body. So the stressor is what activates the stress, and the stress is the response. And understanding that can make all the difference to what the power that we have in choosing our response. And all that is important. And equally as important, and is where I want to focus the rest of our time today, is to understand the difference between being stressed and overwhelmed. And these are words that we often use as synonymous, as the same, and use one of the other, and we overuse overwhelmed, because overwhelm is more overwhelming than being stressed. So let's for a moment think about this. And if you have the opportunity of getting Brené Brown book, The Atlas of the Heart, this is in the hardcover edition in page 4. She makes this differentiation in a very powerful way. She tells the story when she was a student that she used to wait her tables. She worked in a restaurant and sometimes could be really, really, really busy. They would be very stressed about that. There was everything going on at the same time, and they had to please the customers, making sure that the food were arriving, dealing with the kitchen and all that thing. So replace this by working in a high demanding place and high stressful situations that you have to respond quickly and be always on the go. She's speaking about when she was stressed, or the term that she uses, on the weeds of all that kind of situations that create a lot of emotions. Sometimes she was able to ask for help, and they help each other to make things a little bit more doable. That was different then when she got overwhelmed. And she says that in the years that she worked there, only a couple of times she got really overwhelmed. And this is how she describes. So I'm going to read now from page 5 of the book. Walking into the kitchen and saying, "I'm blown." Well, that's completely different. The kitchen gets really quiet. No one asks what you need. Normally, someone runs to the hostess stand to find out what tables you are running that shift. They don't even assume you know this moment. The kitchen manager, who will never get involved in an in-the-weeds situation, pulls all the tickets from your guests to evaluate what's happening and immediately assigns your tables to other wait staff. When you are blown, you can either step outside or into the cooler or go to the bathroom and cry. Whatever you need, you are expected back in 10 minutes, ready to go. But for 10 minutes, there is a complete takeover. In 6 years, it happened to me twice. both times due to pure exhaustion at the end of a triple shift that I was working because tuitions was due. Stress is being in the weeds. Overwhelmed is being blown. End quotes. This is a great description of the difference here. This description that differentiates stress from overwhelm. Yes, it's not pleasurable to be stressed, but overwhelmed, and as the word, if we go to the root of the word, the etymology, the origin of the word, overwhelmed being completely submerged, swamped. So it's like we are turned upside down, knock over. It's a much more overwhelmed image than stress, for more horrible and stressful that stress is. But if we use them as the same, then we don't have a container for when things get really overwhelming, really upside down, and we feel underwater. Because on that circumstances, it's not pushing doesn't work. We really have to reserve all our energies to hold on to something that allow us to come to the surface and breathe again. Everything becomes blurry, and that is different than being stressed. So in your life, please, if you feel stressed in a chronic way, be aware of it. Check what you can do, ask for help, listen to the previous episodes and learn how you can differentiate the stressor from the stress, for instance, and work your stress emotions through the end to let it go. Ask for help, that is so important. Create resources. And if there is any moment in your life that you really feel overwhelmed, it's really important that you honor that and even develop, like if Brené Brown describes in this beautiful example, a code word for it. It's not to be used every day, but when it happens, to having a code word, or if you don't overuse the word overwhelm, saying overwhelmed as that code word to give you a moment and a time to recover. It's really important. Think about, I go back to the image of the coffee. If you have a cup of coffee that is boiling, really, really, really hot, and you grab your cup of coffee and you feel that the coffee is boiling, you even can see it boiling, you can feel stress. So the coffee boiling is the stressor, the thing that is causing you the stress, because you know that, imagine that you have a limited time to drink your coffee, and you know that because the coffee is so boiling hot, you are not going to have time to enjoy it and drink it. And if you like coffee and if you need coffee, it's a bad situation, and it's normal that you feel stressed about it. Overwhelm is more than that. And I know that even for stress, this coffee example can sound a little bit ridiculous, but sometimes this is a good example because from the outside, when the stress or the overwhelm happens, it's not a rational thing. Why is the person in that situation feeling overwhelmed? But we don't know what is going on in the person's life. Maybe this is the last straw, or there was a trigger, emotional trigger that really created an emotional wave that is submerging the person. But it's really important that we understand that when that happens, there is no point of forcing anything. Otherwise, it's just going to get burned. The person is just going to get burned and then takes longer to recover. is creating this space for crying it out, for processing it somehow, and then it's easier to be resilient, to learn whatever needs to be learned, and then to come back in a better position. So words and developing words for our emotions is a really important thing. And reserving some words to specific situations can help us to communicate with ourselves and to others in a more powerful and effective way. So think about that. How you use the word stressed, how you use the word overwhelmed. And I invite you to get the book, The Atlas of the Art of Brené Brown, as a book to flavor and savor every chapter, not to just consume it as a fast meal, keeping here with the images of drink and food in this episode. This book is not a fast read, and I like that. It's a book like going to a fancy restaurant that you want to savor every moment of it and learn and enjoy the experience. So with that, let's open and learn more words to express our emotional experiences, because that is a way of expanding our possibilities and expanding our world. Thank you for listening.
Expanding possibilities. The mindset.
Thank you for listening. And remember to visit mindset.zone. Yes, instead of .com, it's .zone. There you can find all the episodes and other amazing resources, all at mindset.zone. And if you want to get a free chapter of my book, Mindset Zone, please go to mindset.zone/book. As always, I'm so grateful you are here. Expand what's possible for you, for the ones around you, for the world.